everybody, it's Squid. Welcome back to the channel. How is everybody doing on this Wednesday morning? Oh, it's a glorious day. So we're going to get into a couple of things today. I just have to, good morning, Barbara. Yeah, this one was in February. And investigation release. Yes, this one was February. I have the investigation was probably released before now. I just got a hold of it last week. So we are going to go through it. It is not as emotionally taxing as the other one because this one, everybody survived. But there is just a couple of, I'm sorry, before the stream, I had a sneezing fit. So if I have to pause and mute myself for a couple of seconds to hack up a lung, allergies, Southeast Georgia. If you know, you know. I will try to mute myself. I can't guarantee that I'm always going to be successful in that, but I will try. These are fascinating to me because I live with an aviation subject matter expert. He is a very soft-spoken sort of. He doesn't talk much unless he's passionate about something. And he is passionate about aviation. He has worked in aviation since he was 18. Minus the 6 weeks he went to Buds to try to be a Navy SEAL. It did not go well. His body gave out on him. His mind didn't, but his body did, which makes it even more frustrating for him, which is why we don't talk about it. But other than that, he has worked in aviation his entire adult life. He is 41 years old. So, you know, you can do the math on that one. I can't do the quick math, but he is my, oh, Tammy, I'm sorry. All right. He is my subject matter expert. He will not tell you that he is a subject matter expert, but the man is damn good at his job. It's my allergies. I have a deviated septum. So, Angel, what? What do you see? There's only my slippers underneath the desk, baby. And girl, you have a Nutella face. Everything with her is a national tragedy this morning. We spilled our breakfast. We screamed. What, baby? You want to get down? Yeah. Okay. No. You want to come on mommy's lap? Okay. Okay. Girl, you have Nutella all over your shirt. There we go. Say hi. Girl, we need to. We have Nutella on our mouth. Darn, we're getting in the way of fun. So we have this report. I do want to address something. And Patrick, I heard you say 27 minutes. Well, we're going to make it 4 minutes and 40 seconds. So in the, I'm going to turn your volume down just a little bit. Okay. Thank you. In the What the Hales case, I know, and I have seen comments about everybody getting pissed off at the judge, saying he's biased, saying he's this, blah, blah, left, right, center. I just have to address something really, really quickly. When I say that the judge only sees what is in documents and not what is put out, and I will be addressing this if I ever do another Hail stream whenever the other documents come out. However, I blocked this person out because this comment was on Jeremy's latest video. It was not addressed to me, therefore I'm not going to put the person's name out there. When comments are addressed towards me, I put people's names out there. Angel, stop, please. Stop, please. Stop messing with my mic. But however, this right here is the problem I see with the people on this side of the aisle, so to speak, if you want to, divide them out like that. When are you going to get an unbiased judge that researches the poor clients? You do not see what's wrong with that statement. I responded, he is not allowed to independently investigate. That is why David Gingras tried to get Judge Mata removed, saying that she independently investigated the case. And I will show you as to why. I took this screenshot. I will be reading more of the full document when it applies to the stream, but we are just going to look at this. And I'm sorry that I have part of it blocked. I did not mean to judges can conduct legal research online for cases not cited by the parties, so he can investigate case law that might be. Oh, he is not even close to Judge Bev. Hell no. Hell no. Legal research online for cases not cited by the parties. He can look up case law regarding what he thinks. All judges do it. Judge Kranick did it. He cited some cases when he was making decisions that neither party had addressed. But using the internet to find facts concerning the parties or subject matter poses ethical problems, according to an ABA ethics opinion. Finding adjudicative facts about an online is generally banned by the ADA Model Code of Judicial Conduct, according to ABA Formal Opinion 478. An exception allows judges to go online for facts that are subject to judicial notice because they are generally known and not subject to reasonable dispute. Adjudicated facts concern the immediate parties, including who did what, where, when, and how, with motive or intent. The ethics opinion explains judges' decisions must be based on evidence presented on the record or in open court, and that is available to all parties. The ethics opinion says, in an adversarial system, judges should not combine the role of advocate, witness, and judge. Sweet baby Jesus. Right there. The opinion cites Model Rule 2.9c of the Model Code, which states, a judge shall not investigate facts in a matter independently and shall consider only the evidence presented and any facts that may properly be judicially noticed. Comment 6 of the rule says the ban on investigating facts extends to information available in all mediums, including electronic. The opinion presents guidelines for independent factual research by judges. Long story short, if it ain't in a damn document on the record, the judge is not allowed to look at it. That is why anything that's not on the record is Randy's fault. And I will get annoyed about that. But like, if it's not known to the judge, that's a Randy problem. Because the judge is not allowed. So comments like that. And I blocked out the person's name because it was not addressed to me. And so I don't show people's names when the comment's not addressed to me. Haters, I will show your names. But this, when are you going to get an unbiased judge that researches the poor clients? He literally can't. It's against the ABA Code of Ethics and Judicial Conduct. Like, God dang nabbit, how do people not realize this? This is why I have a channel, because there are people that walk through life thinking this. There are people who have no idea about our legal system that put out their opinion on our legal system. This is a problem. This is a problem. And I like Jeremy, but he takes advantage of that. Like, I do agree. I do agree. But the same thing, judge let Sarah Boone put up a flyer in the courthouse for an attorney. So like, that's not unusual either. So it is not unusual for a judge to do that. I've never seen a federal judge do it, but I've also never seen a federal judge have to deal with this. So But like, yes, but Randy has not put anything in there that would lead him to believe that. We've read the documents. Randy has not put anything in there. Randy needs to put some of that shit in there. In my opinion, Randy needs to put that shit in a document and make the judge aware. Like, the fact that the judge doesn't know about it, and it's because it's not in any document presented to the court. It's not on you. Yeah. All I can think about is Carlton. Sorry. But Randy needs, that's a Randy problem. That's not a judge problem. That's a Randy problem. Sorry, I like Randy. I think he is way more professional than the other side of the aisle on any. But there are some things that it's like, he needs to put that in there because the judge cannot go. Judges have been attempted to be removed for that. So you can't say that it's unethical in one stance and then all of a sudden get mad at the judge for not doing it. It just, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Let's just, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's just not possible. A judge here went on an ex parte fact-finding mission and lost his re-election, but charges are being brought to the state for what he did. Thank you, JKD Book. Good morning. Like, yeah. Hi, I love you. It's, I don't know, but if I were Randy, I'd be putting that in every motion that I could sneak it into. And we've read all the documents. He hasn't. He hasn't. You've read the documents with me. He hasn't. And that's not a, and to me, that is a detriment because I'd be mentioning that shit in every, I'm hoping that some of the clips he's put in clips of various things. He needs to put in a clip of that. Because if he puts it in a thing, the judge can ethically look at it because it was an emotion. It was a link in emotion. He can look at it. He needs, yes, judges are not free to do whatever they want to do. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. All right, so we are getting into this. So I'm sorry, Patrick, it was only 4 minutes and 50 seconds. But I really hope that people saw my comment and actually like understand it. You can't base, like, I'm heated right now because it amazes me how people walk through life. Like, when I don't know something, I will fully admit I don't know something. Like, I will not say something on stream because I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. Like, don't take my word for it. I think this, but I'm not sure. I have to look it up. But I go and look it up. And it's amazing to me how people think that things are one way when they're really not that way. All right, let's get into this. This one is not nearly as emotional because everybody survived. However, I did send a TLDR. Excuse you, ma'am. Are we squeaky? Are we squeaky? Yeah, okay. This is from, excuse you, ma'am. Girl, we're on another level this morning. But she matches my energy. So when I get, yeah. And that is true as well. But like I said, not a lawyer. But if I were a lawyer and knowing the judge can't look up those facts, I'd be sneaking that shit in left, right, and center. And every chance I get, I'd be mentioning it. I'd be bringing it up. I'd be posting links. Like every second of every motion, I'd be trying to professionally get all that in. All right, this is from the Transportation Safety Board of Canada because, of course, this happened in Toronto. Uh-oh. You went down? Okay. Okay, my Nutella-covered child. Ma'am. Oh my goodness, we're squeaky. All right. Collision with terrain during landing. Endeavor Air doing business as Delta Connection. MHI-RJ Aviation Group CL600 2D24 Regional Jet Series 900. Basically a CRJ 900 LR. Tail number N932XJ. Toronto Lester B. Pearson International Airport. Airport code CYYZ. So if you ever see that on a baggage tag, that's where that is going. 17th of, yes, this is the Canada kickflip. Yes, this is the Canadian kickflip. Hold on, baby. We got to turn. How do you keep making your volume higher? This happened 17 February 2025. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is investigating the occurrence for the purpose of advancing transportation safety. It is not a function of the board to assign fault or determine civil or criminal liability. This report is not created for use in the context of legal, disciplinary, or other proceedings. See terms of use at end of report. All right, a summary. On 17 February 2025, the MHI-RJ Aviation Group, formerly known as Bombardier. And when I say Mr. Squid is my aviation expert, he was a former Boeing and Bombardier employee, in addition to 3 other companies that I know of. CL600 2D24 aircraft, CRJ 900 LR, registration serial number 15194, things that are not important to you, was operating as Endeavor Air Flight EDV 4819 from Minneapolis St. Paul International World Chamberlain Airport, MSP. Hey, and coming to the stream, Spawn Trooper.
I don't want to be here.
Feeling this morning, or this afternoon, I guess. Better than yesterday?
Well, yeah, a little bit.
Want water?
So what tomfoolery are we throwing ourselves in today? Oh, and by the way, I've done a little bit more research on this.
Well, baby girl, I don't know what you want.
And my overall opinion, which you mentioned privately, my overall opinion is threefold. Part 1, the approach angle was too steep. Part 2, the landing was extremely hard, so that's basically pilot error. And 3, there was a catastrophic failure on the right landing strut.
Yeah, I sent Mr. Squid a TLDR, and he said any crosswind, and I had mentioned the wind, and he had asked me, but I was like, I have to look at the runway diagram, because yesterday we got down a rabbit hole of where's the money, and I will be doing a stream on where's the money and the FAA budget, and Mr. Squid's, I have 3 pages of notes on different rabbit holes to go down based on our conversation yesterday. We talked for an hour. I did not get the chance to mention this flight because I had read through it once, but I had not read through the report again, so I didn't want to give him wrong information. So as I was reading through it again last night, I sent him a text, TLDR, while he was asleep. So he got it this morning. However, this one, not nearly as emotional, not nearly as... Please say you're pouring coffee.
Yes, I am actually.
Okay. I was like that. I'm like, you're not needed here. No, you can't have this.
You should know by now. I always do that in front of the mic. Just
Yeah, it just sounded funky. Oh, she's trying to get me to play the game. She grabs my hand. I did, however, for the chat, discuss the New York helicopter crash.
Oh God.
His words to me were somebody is going to jail. Those were his words to me. luckily enough, he is best friends with with a very, very good helicopter mechanic who worked on Chinooks in the Marine Corps. So he is getting back to me with the questions that I had and even he had or that he couldn't answer. He is getting back to me on some things. So that Mr. Squid couldn't answer. However, I do have that for the future as well.
Well, I've got a little bit of an update for you.
Yes.
Which I didn't tell you deliberately. Regardless of rank, I contacted a good friend in the Army Air Corps. Well, I tried to contact him, couldn't get hold of him, so I had to get hold of someone else. And basically, he then got hold of one of the instructors up in Leckensfield, which is a phase 2, phase 3 training in the establishment. And basically, he then got in touch with one of the instructors up there, who then got hold of a friend of mine. And basically, he says that in regards of the Washington, D.C. Ronald Reagan incident, night vision goggle flying, you have to be prominently trained wearing night vision for a certain period of time before you can actually do your refresher flight training. Now, I'm not sure if that is the same for the United States military, but you have to have prominent and sufficient training whilst using NVGs, because the monocular type of vision and the amount of visual sights you lose whilst wearing NVGs, because the depth, when you're looking through, like I said before, when you're looking through night NVGs, right, you have a depth perception loss. Right, so basically that means if anything is like within 2 meters of you, it'll look like it's closer. If anything, anything further, it can be both ways. Plus, obviously, if you're someone who wears glasses, or you've got like you've had an eye test and stuff like that, that can actually prevent you from flying an aircraft, basically. Because NVGs, if you wear glasses, it can give you even then the double effect of depth perception and also the reflection in your glasses. So the guy, basically, my mate turned around to me. He says he finds it very interesting that the instructor pilot was using a monocular where he should have been using a binocular version of the night vision, where he should have been using a monocular, so he could have kept an eye on overall surroundings and stuff like that. So that's a never fucking rabbit hole I for sure for shit am not going into, not alone, not unarmed.
And that's a rabbit hole for another date and time, and if we do choose to go down it.
I am telling you right now, mate, I am not going down that fucking rabbit hole, because I spent nearly an hour on the phone, and it was like I was sitting in a lesson. I'm not going there. I'm not doing it. I refuse to do it. I'm telling my mom.
With this, I do have a couple of exhibits that I have. My mom might let me borrow one of her planes, so her model planes, so I can we can show glide slope and stuff, but that's beside the point. I am going to limit these streams to an hour and a half because we go down so many rabbit holes. With this, we're going to read through it. I might say rabbit hole when there is something that I have questions about, but we're going to read through it first.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, welcome to your first day of Top Gun training.
This is a really interesting one, though.
And just for the record, I am not qualified in aeronautics or plane mechanics or anything else. I am just going because we both have experience going through documents of this type. Well, I have anyway, especially when it comes to investigations and research. Just for the record, what you're hearing today is our personal insight and opinion from possible experiences that we may had or have had.
Yes.
Or have had.
And before because we just kind of started this, before we get into it, my background is avionics on E-2C Hawkeyes in the Navy. However, I am the love of my life is not only has been working in aviation since he was 18 and he is 41. You can do the math because I'm really not going to right now. He has worked in military and civilian aircraft. He is a AMP, which is airframes and power plants certified. He is gear swing qualified, which is pertinent to this. He also has a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering. So he is my subject matter expert. I know certain things, but I've also had brain surgery and a lot of skill loss over the 15 years that I have not worked in aviation. The last time I worked in aviation was 2010. So it's 14 and a half years of now, I have tried to get Mr. Squid to come on here, not on camera, but just talk. And he is not a fan. He wants to completely remain anonymous because of the fact that he is currently working in aviation and holds certain knowledge and skills that he is not allowed to talk about. But he is my subject matter expert. There are days when he comes home from work and he cannot tell me what he did. All right. So we were just going over the summary. It was operating as Endeavour Air Flight EDV 4819 from Minneapolis to Ontario. During the landing on runway 23, and I have the diagram of runway 23 somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And just for the record, right? One of my strengths from my service, both regular and reserve, is basically investigative reading, if you want to put it that way, and writing statements, reading statements. That's why I'm really good at research. One thing I will say is that I have had experience with NVGs, driving with NVGs, flying in various different aircraft as passenger. But I have flown on civilian aircrafts, and I've experienced twice where it was a hard landing, and one was with British Airways and the other one was with Virgin. Pricks.
Delta is infamous for their freaking hard landings because I fly out of Savannah because Delta is the cheapest because Atlanta's a hub. So yeah.
I mean, what gets me is that, like, because I afterwards went on a Virgin one, because I flew back from Iraq to Akatori. In Akatori, obviously, you got you got decompression, and then you get a civil flight from Akatori to back to the world. But instead of going back to the UK, I had to go to Germany. And when we landed, I'm sure we bounced at least 3 times. And when I walked off the plane, I just said in very sarcastic German to the pilot, because I knew the pilot, because I could hear him speaking German. So I just turned around to him and called him an absolute arsehole and a freaking amateur. And then I left the plane very quickly.
So I'm going to show, this is a picture of Toronto's airports. It is way more detailed than a much bigger airport than DCA. So it's much more complicated in the sense of being able to look at and knowing what you're looking at. But this right here is runway 23. So
I find it very interesting, actually, because I've just noticed, like, that was the runway there. Was that the runway? Is that the runway there?
Yeah.
I find it quite interesting. Just before we go into it in depth, I did a little bit of research on all the footage and videos since last night, and in 2 videos, I noticed that, like, when there was one guy who got out of the plane with his mobile phone recording, of course,
of course, because I mean that's what you do when you I mean, honestly, I can't say that I wouldn't. So
I mean, like me, I would just want to get the anyway. So obviously, this clown is recording and filming this, getting out, and there's a big smile on someone's face when he gets out, and he turns around, and you can't see any buildings anywhere near the aircraft, which I find quite strange. And then in another video, there's a clip from another passenger, and then there's a hangar. Which can you go back to the yeah. And basically, I believe that to be the FedEx building. And then there was another video where the plane, there was no buildings around it. Now, I've checked all three videos, and they're from three different angles. So you know where you got the arrow now in that clear part, like the below the FedEx building.
yeah.
All right. I think that was one direction where the plane crashed, and then one of the videos you see the building, the FedEx building, right? But there was two hangars, so I think that was right to the top. You see the top of buildings there above is it R51 or runway 51, and then the never one where you see one building, which was then the FedEx building. So it was really strange to, it gave you a false sense of where
and that I believe, in not reading into this too much yet, because we haven't gotten there, but that I believe is crew and crew training as to when you evacuate an aircraft, knowing where to put people.
Yeah. Exactly.
And not just letting people like be ants, and when you step on an anthill and all the ants go every which way and sideways. I believe that is what happened.
Yep.
And I mean that is a crew training on how to tell people where to go. I mean, and you got to think everybody's in panic because the plane was upside down.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was reinforced a few years ago where there was an air incident where a plane debusted. I mean, sorry, where they I keep on calling it debust. I mean, getting out of a vehicle. Where they got all the passengers off, and basically what happened, one of the fire tenders, one of the fire engines, the big freaking thing.
It's a complicated map.
Excuse me?
Oh, Sir Frank said that's a nice map compared to some I have seen, DIA being one. DIA is, well, that's just a whole nother can of worms.
So one of the fire vehicles came round and basically mowed over about 4 people because obviously they ran right in front of the vehicle when they were moving. So yeah, I think they reinforced, like, when you're getting people off, that you have someone at the bottom directing them in one direction. So yeah. Anyway.
All right, we're gonna keep going into this. During the landway on runway 23, the aircraft impacted the runway. The right wing detached and a fire ensued. The aircraft overturned and slid down the runway inverted, coming to rest near the intersection of runway 23 and runway 15L. Aircraft rescue and firefighting responded, and all passengers and crew evacuated. History of the flight. At 12:47, and the footnote is all times are Eastern Standard Time. On February 17th, the Bombardier, I'm just going to call it Bombardier because saying MHIRJ Aviation Group just gets, I know it is Bombardier. Y'all know it is Bombardier. Operated by Endeavor Air, doing business as Delta Connection, departed Minneapolis-St. Paul. On flight EDV 4819, an instrument flight rules flight to Toronto, Ontario, with 2 flight crew members and 2 cabin crew members and 76 passengers. The captain was seated in the left seat and was pilot monitoring for the flight. The first officer was seated in the right seat and was the pilot flying. That's important for a couple of details. The flight proceeded uneventfully, and the crew received clearance for the instrument landing system. That's the system I worked on. ILS approach to runway 23 at Ontario. The landing reference speed for the approach was 139 knots. According to Endeavor Air's CRJ 700-900 series company flight manual, Final approach is flown at the velocity reference plus 5 knots. When operating in gusty wind conditions, increase the VREF, the velocity, by half of the gust factor, not to exceed 10 knots indicated airspeed. That's important too. That becomes very important in this when you take into account the wind speed. I'm not exactly sure everything on the airframe that would do yet. Mr. Squid is currently at work, so he cannot answer those questions for me. So we're still, on the occurrence flight, the flight crew set the speed bug to VREF or velocity reference plus 5 knots or 144 knots. Given the reported wind gusts, the approach was flown at 149 knots. At 14:12:01, the aircraft descended through 500 feet above ground level. The aircraft's indicated airspeed was 150 knots, and the ground speed was 121, and the engine thrust was indicating approximately 64% of N1. Unlike legal documents, when I see footnotes, I read them immediately because they're important to the context. N1 is the engine's low pressure compressor RPM displayed digitally on the top of the primary engine display information, which indicates the current N1 in percentage. So these are complicated but important things to, And Captain Kern, I worked for an airline that operated a certain airline that has a hub in Denver. You can do the mental gymnastics to figure out what that airline was, because I'm not saying it. At 14:12:30, while the aircraft was descending through 153 feet above ground level, its indicated airspeed increased to 154 knots, whereas the ground speed did not change appreciably, consistent with a performance increasing wind gust. So it's a tailwind, which is which does not help this situation any. The PF pulled back the thrust levers, English. As a result, over the following 5 seconds, N1 decreased from 64% to approximately 43%, where it remained until touchdown. The airspeed began to decrease. And I'm not going to name times. I'm just going to say the time before touchdown because it's just easier to mentally think about. 3.6 seconds before touchdown, when the aircraft was at a height of 50 feet above ground level, the indicated airspeed was 145 knots and the ground speed was 112 knots. The rate of descent had increased to 1,114 feet per minute. That's kind of a lot. That's kind of a lot. The enhanced ground proximity warning system, Oral Alert 50, sounded to indicate the aircraft was at 50 feet above ground level, which is a standard call out. 2.6 seconds before touchdown, the EGPWS alert sync rate sounded, indicating a high rate of descent. That 1,114 feet per minute is very fast, which means they were coming down, like you said earlier, at a higher angle of attack, so to speak, than they should have been. And I'm sorry. Oh, the allergies this morning are off the charts. All right. 2.6 seconds before touchdown, the sync rate indicating a high rate of descent. The aircraft's indicated airspeed was 136 knots. Ground speed was 111. At the rate of descent had remained about 1,100 feet per minute. The bank angle increased to 4.7 degrees right bank. So there is no easy way of describing what that looks like without a computer model. But 4.7 degrees is only about yay big on the protractor. However, you extend that out multiple feet over the wingspan of a CRJ 900, that becomes a lot. That is a lot. That puts, and we saw that when we were looking at the video on Spawn Trooper's stream when this first happened, and I had Mr. Squid look at it, and he was wondering why it was coming down right side heavy. He was wondering if there was a fuel problem. This was what went through his aviation brain. He also said it looked like the right main landing gear was wonky. Maybe that wonky is my term, not his. But it looks like he was analyzing things like that. That's not a good thing to have. Let's put it that way. You're supposed to be level. And maybe it was the wind. Maybe it was the aircraft having a problem. The engine thrust was steady at approximately 43% N1, 1.6 seconds before touchdown. The aircraft's indicated airspeed was 136 knots, and its ground speed was 111. The aircraft was slightly below the glide slope. So the glide slope is that nice level, a nice angle that you're supposed to come down. This is my ruler. Sorry, I don't have an aircraft. You're supposed to come down like this. This nice glide slope. Like it's all there. Well, when you're below that line, here's the glide slope, and here you are. It makes for hitting the ground before you're supposed to. If you were on an aircraft carrier, you would miss the wires and possibly hit the back of the aircraft. Sorry, I'm grabbing a grabbing a. Anyway, be right back. Need to go yell at the kids. Oh. All right. The aircraft was slightly below glide slope, but on the visual segment of approach and tracking the runway center line. So it was centered on the runway, just low. The rate of descent had increased to 1,072 feet per minute, and the bank angle was 5.9 degrees. It's getting worse. If I were on this plane right now, I'd be like buckling my seatbelt, like praying to whatever God you believe in. Less than 1 second before touchdown, the aircraft's indicated airspeed was 134 knots and its ground speed was 111. The bank angle was 7.1 degrees to the right. And the pitch attitude was 1 degree nose up, which is not unusual because you hit rear wheels first. The rate of descent was recorded as 1,110 feet per minute. At 14:12:43.6, the right main landing gear contacted the runway. The aircraft was in a 7.5 degree bank. So think about when you're level, both tires hit at the same time. When you're banked to the right, not only does your right side hit first, but your tires don't hit evenly. So it puts pressure on places that pressure is not supposed to go. With 1 degree nose up pitch and 3G vertical acceleration at a rate of descent of approximately 1,098 feet per minute, or 18.3 feet per second. At touchdown, the following occurred. The side stay that is attached to the right main landing gear fractured, and the landing gear folded into the retracted position. And I had brought this up on my laptop. I don't know if I put it in here. I did not. Dang nabbit. I have a picture of the I have a picture of a landing gear. Let's see if I put it in. Nope, and I saved it to the wrong folder. Dang nabbit. Basically, the side stay is the piece that comes off of the landing gear inboard that basically keeps it in the retract or in the extended position. Hey, Stats. Ugh. My older two are a pain to get going along to some school days. They have 15 minutes to be there and running out of dad patience this morning. I can understand the dad patience because the mom patience with everything being the end of the world this morning. Like we spilled a bowl full of Teddy Grahams. And it was like she's sitting there looking at him crying. I'm like, just pick him up. Just pick him up. just pick him up. It's not a tragedy. It's not a national tragedy. We don't need to lower the flags to half staff because baby Squid dumped a bowl full of Teddy Grahams. We're good. Everything is like an end of the world.
Do you know I've been talking to you and I forgot to unmute my mic.
Cheers to boomer tech issues this morning.
Fuck off. What?
Well, you were streaming not yesterday, but the day before.
Yeah.
When you started your stream, I was there, but I was driving, so I couldn't really participate very much. But your intro music ended, and there was a pause, and I'm like, he's muted. And you instantly were, a couple of seconds later, were like, yeah, it'd help if I'd unmute myself, right? I'm like,
yeah, I just want to say I've sent you a link, and once you finish page 3, I'll read page 4 out for you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I thought he was quiet. Yeah, he's just too quiet.
I'm a good boy. I'm quiet.
Yeah, right.
I'm a snare.
At touchdown, the following occurred. The side stay that is attached to the right main landing gear fractured. That's what keeps the landing gear extended. The landing gear folded into the retracted position, so it went back up into the wing. The wing root fractured between the fuselage and the landing gear. And I know enough about, and I remember enough about aviation to know what the wing root is. That is where the wing attaches to the fuselage. So if that fractures, you got a problem. You got a big problem. The wing root fractured between the fuselage and landing gear, and the wing detached from the fuselage, releasing a cloud of jet fuel, which caught fire. So I had all these up on my laptop, and I forgot to send them or email them to myself because I have to update my laptop.
1 second. I'm getting you a... Oh, fuck off.
Yeah. Same thing happened to me.
Please hold. Okay, right, let's take that one.
This is a...
Okay, 1 second. I'm sending you a picture.
I have I have a picture here. I just have to save it because it's very small. If I bring it up on a,
Mine's better than yours.
Let's see. I changed the name of my folder where I keep everything. So I
just sent it to you. See how quick I can do that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's not exactly that. I have that too, but
well, it gives people a bit more in, you know.
Yeah, I'll share this, but I was going to do the wing structure too, but this is important. So let me close this. All right. So we're going to share this tab. So that is the landing gear. And this is the side stay, the part that keeps it retracted out and pushed out. If that breaks, your landing gear is subject to wherever the world decides to take it. It's like this is the most important thing to keeping your landing gear down and in the locked position. If that breaks, if that breaks, then may God be with you, because that's all that's going to come of that. Like, I can't, like, I don't know what to tell you. That's when I would be like, that's when I would put my head between my legs and kiss my ass goodbye. So it's just one of those, like, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, like it. Hi, beautiful. Girl, your hair's frizzy. All right. So we're going to go back to this. I do have the part of the wing. So this right here is the wing root. But do you see right here? So when people, I've seen comments, and nobody in this chat, but I've seen comments just in general on the internet, mostly Facebook, about why it caught fire. How did it catch fire when the wing came off? It's because there's fuel tanks in the wings. For those of you who don't know, there are fuel tanks in every wing. So when the wing cracks, the fuel leaks out. And if there's a spark, if there's a spark, I don't know, from metal hitting ground, anything could happen. It sparks up and there's your fire. Because I didn't actually see video and close-ups of, this is not the movies. You don't have a landing gear camera where you can see sparks. It is what it is. And if you get a spark, I'm not a genius, and I'm definitely not a fire control expert, but spark and fuel does not and oxygen do not make for a good situation. I don't know. Yeah. Fuel tanks are in the wings. And jet fuel likes to burn. Yeah. Have you ever taken a bath in JP5? I have. Not on purpose, but I was walking around the back of the aircraft, and the filter just so happened to not work anymore, and a bunch of about 200 gallons of JP5 came streaming out the back of the plane at the exact same time that I just happened to be walking around the back of the plane. It was not a fun experience. What's up, Angel? Well, I will get it for you. I don't know. There you go. Oh, you took my cup. I was like, where's my cup? She took my cup away. All right. The landing gear folded into the retracted position. The wing root fractured, and between the fuselage and the landing gear, and the wing detached from the fuselage, releasing a cloud of jet fuel, which caught fire. The exact sequence of these events is still to be determined by further examination of the fractured surfaces. Like, it's written up in red at the top here, but this is a preliminary report. This is not the final report. That could be up to next year in order to get that. The aircraft then began to slide along the runway. The fuselage slid down runway 23, rolling to the right until it became inverted. A large portion of the tail, including most of the vertical stabilizers and the entire horizontal stabilizer, became detached during the roll. The aircraft went off the right side of the runway into the snow-covered grass area and came to rest on runway 15L near the intersection of with runway 23, about 75 feet beyond the right edge of runway 23, figure 1. The right wing, including the right main landing gear, became fully detached from the aircraft and slid approximately 215 feet further along runway 23. Could you imagine being in Canada in February and having to stand out there and measure all of this?
I've been I've been in the middle of the bloody prairie in Alberta in the winter. Yeah, no.
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 There's a reason I live in Georgia and not Wisconsin anymore, because it's freaking cold in February. Cold.
One thing I can say, in the winter, no. In the summer, the mosquitoes are that big, they need their own bloody airport and ATC. That's how big those freaking things are.
It's starting to be here where you go outside and you have all the gnats around your head.
Yeah.
It's when you're like this and your neighbors are looking at you. Kind of funny, because if you didn't know what was going on, you would think I was crazy with my arms flapping all around.
Believe it or not, smoke gets rid of them.
Is that why you smoke?
Maybe.
I'm
not saying anything about my lawyer present. Bruce, where are you, boy?
No. See, EMS are crazy right now in this swamps. Oh, yeah. I have a scar. You can't see it. It's very small. But I have a scar on my forehead. If you look, it looks like a crater from like acne scars, but it's a no-see-um bite. And the reason they call them a no-see-um is because you don't see them. But you all of a sudden have this huge mark in the middle of your forehead, and you have a scar. It's bad. Bugs down here are on another level.
They've got their own community.
Oh, we have palmetto bugs, which I will not get into, except for the fact that it's a cockroach on steroids. And it doesn't matter how clean your house is, how dirty your house is, how new, how old. They don't discriminate. They go everywhere. It's gross. They're about the size of my hand. Nech. All right. The aircraft went to the right side of the runway into the snow-covered grass area, came to a rest on runway 15L near the intersection with runway 23. The right wing, including the landing gear, because it was all one thing, became fully detached from the aircraft and slid approximately 15 feet further along runway 23. Once the aircraft came to a stop, an evacuation began. All occupants evacuated the aircraft. At time of writing this preliminary report, it has been confirmed that 21 of the 80 occupants were injured. 2 of those occupants were reported to have serious injuries. The Transportation Safety Board regulations, and this is Canadian, just remember that. A serious injury is defined as follows: a fracture of any bone except simple fractures of fingers, toes, or the nose, lacerations that cause severe hemorrhage or nerve, muscle, or tendon damage, an injury to an internal organ, a second or third degree burn, or any burns affecting more than 5% of the body, a verified exposure to an infectious substance or injurious radiation, an injury that is likely to require hospitalization. That is, hey Taz, that is what is seen as a serious injury in the eyes of the Canadian Air Transportation Safety Board.
Mm-hmm.
Figure 1, this is the plane. And look at the snow and the ice that's just starting to form on this aircraft just from being there. The fuel tank is in a plane is the wing itself, not a separate part of a lot of them. Now, sometimes they have bladder tanks, but normally they're in smaller planes, but your big jets are in, yeah. It's not, but it's one of those things that, like, when something like this happens and people go, well, how are there fuel? What? And they start to do conspiracy theories where it was like, no, there's actually a fuel tank in the wing. It's not where it fractured was right through the fuel tank. Fuel leaked out. It's and that's one of the reasons that I like doing this, is because like reading through reports and having knowledge, like, yes, I have medical knowledge because that's what I went to college for. This was my career when I was in college, was working for an airline. And when I was in college and then the military, I was aviation. So, like, yes, my life has been in 2 very different. So I have knowledge of multiple areas of the world. Like it's people are like, well, how do you know? Because I was aviation. Be it was in the 2000s, but it still was there. So you can see the wing back here. You can see the wingtip. Like you can see this is the wing. But you can see this other wing fractured, just not at the wing root. If this would have fractured at the wing root, this freaking plane would have barrel rolled. But it fractured here, which was enough to keep it in one position. Let's put it that way. Could you imagine if this plane fractured this other wing completely off? Holy shit. Those engines would be the only thing keeping you from rolling.
It'd have been, oh, Sky, we've landed. Sky, we've landed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you can see this landing gear. Like, I can't zoom in on it. Well, I can. Like, you can see that this landing gear is your track is extended. It's snow covered, and you really, if you weren't knowing what you were looking at, it kind of blends in with the rest of the picture. But that's the left landing gear.
I mean, but to be honest with you, I think that wing, with the weight of the landing gear, actually stopped it from rolling any more than it did.
Yeah. I just can't imagine the forces that were on this wing. Like, the physics of this is just fascinating. It makes it like you just,
because before they actually put a plane in the air, they test the stresses on wings and fuselage to a point, and I mean properly put them under a lot of pressure. And wings don't just snap just like that.
Good point, Sir Frank. My brain was focused on the white stuff and not the fact that there's aircraft firefighting foam that is used.
Yeah, they're frozen.
You ever see? But the fact that this was super cold outside, super cold. Like, we're talking 17 degrees Fahrenheit. Like, this was cold. Like, so this was cold. So anything that they did put out froze. Personnel information, and I have to back this up a little bit because that's too big for my own eyes. This is where knowing that the first officer was the pilot in charge and actually flying the aircraft makes me want to hear the audio. But this is where it becomes important. And in my eyes, this is where it becomes important. Not for what you would originally think, but just multitude of reasons.
You ready?
All right. You want to read that?
Yep.
Okay.
Personal information. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the BBC World Service. The captain has worked for Endeavour Air since October 2007. He holds an airline transport pilot certificate issued by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. He is employed as a flight crew member and a simulator instructor. At the time of the occurrence, he had accumulated about 3,570 hours total flight time, including 764 hours on the aircraft type. On the day of the occurrence, the captain began his day at KMSP, and the occurrence flight was the first flight of the day and his first flight in 7 days. In the previous 7 days, the captain had worked 3 days as an instructor. He had flown 3.5 hours in the previous 30 days. The first officer worked for Endeavour Air since January 2024. She holds an airline transport pilot certificate issued by FAA. At the time of the occurrence, she had accumulated 1,422.3 hours total flight time, including 418.7 hours on the aircraft type. The first officer was on day 5 of 5-day work cycle. On the day of the occurrence, she had begun the day in Cleveland, Ohio, United States, with the flight that departed KMSP at 08:19 hours. Upon arrival at Kilo Mike Sierra Papa, sorry, I can't say KMP.
I just say Minneapolis.
Yeah, all right, that one. The first officer had 1 hour and 48 minutes until her next flight. Over the previous 30 days, she had conducted 3 round-trip flights into and out of CYIZ,
Toronto.
that one, not including the occurrence flight. She had flown 56.3 hours on the previous 30 days. The flight attendant seated in the forward section of the aircraft had 3 years of experience, all of them with Endeavour Air. The flight attendant in the rear section had 11 years of experience, including 5 years with Endeavour Air.
So here's my thing with that first officer. This has nothing to do with the fact of her being female. That's just a coincidence. But the pilot, the captain, it was his first flight of the day. He was fresh. And he had not worked that much in the past 7 days, making him even more fresh.
Yep.
The first officer who was flying at the time has nothing to do with female. Let's just get that one out. It was her second flight of the day. She was on a 5-day of 5 of 5 work cycle. She was not fresh. Like, she might have been awake, but like in the span of, comparing the two, she was not fresh. On that 5th day of think about a 5-day work week. On that 5th day, you're like, am I done yet? Am I done yet? Am I done yet? Even if you enjoy your job, you get fatigued.
And just for the record, if there's any truck drivers in the audience right now, when you're driving a truck for 3 to 4 days, the level of tiredness you're going to get is phenomenal. Just imagine that tenfold when you're a pilot, because with all the stuff you have to do, with the amount of communication that you have to deal with, and everything else that you have to do with. So yeah, and when it comes to male pilots or female pilots, at the end of the day, you are a pilot. Simple.
Yeah.
Right. Aircraft information.
It's just one of those things that it's just one of those interesting things that, like, she was tired. Well, she was not fresh. It was even her second flight of the day. And I know pilots fly sometimes 3 to 4 flights a day. Not an issue. But second flight of the day, when it was his first, windy conditions, icy conditions, even though they de-ice the runways pretty well, you're still in a snowy, windy, icy, cold condition. Maybe she should not have been the one that was actually flying the aircraft. Just a thought.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. Remind me of that. Right. Aircraft information. Well, the aircraft was a CL600 2D24 regional set jet series 900, manufactured by Bombardier Inc. in 2008 and registered Delta Airlines Inc. Incorporated on the 31st of December 2009. It was issued to transport category airworthiness certificate. It was configured with 2 flight crew seats, 1 cockpit observer seat, 3 flight attendant seats, and 76 passenger seats. At the time of the occurrence, the aircraft being operated within the allowable weight and balance limitations, the occurrence landing weight was approximately 73,000 pounds, and there was about 6,000 pounds of fuel remaining at the time of the landing. To look at the aircraft information, please view Table 1. Weather, the aerodrome routine meteorological report for that word issued at 1400 hours indicated the following: winds from 270 degree true T at 28 knots, gusting to 35 knots. Visibility 6 statute miles in blowing snow. Runway visual range for runway 24 left, variable between 3,000 feet and more than 6,000 feet with an upward trend. Broken ceiling at 3,400 feet AGL at ground level. Temperatures -7 degrees and dew point -14 degrees. The ultimate setting is 29.93 inches of mercury. Remarks indicated cumulus clouds at 9 octaves. Following the occurrence, the Special Aerodrome Routine Meteorological Report for that place issued at 14:32 hours indicated the following: winds from 270 degrees T at 20 knots, gusting to 32 knots. Visibility of 6 statute miles in blowing snow. Runway visual range for runway 424 left, variable between 2,600 feet and more than 6,000 feet with downward trend. Broken ceiling at 3,000 feet AGL, temperature -8 degrees, and dew point -13 degrees. Ultimate setting is 29.94 inches mercury. Remark indicated cumulus clouds at 5 octaves.
And -8 degrees Celsius is 17 point something degrees Fahrenheit. And -13 is like 6 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Doesn't the first officer handle communications when the captain is flying and vice versa when it's the first officer flying? I believe every airline has different regulations, and it might be different based on what airline you work for. I can't. Yeah. Hey, Texas Alien. It's all airline dependent.
Sometimes they actually share it. Sometimes if you listen to ATC, you'll hear both pilots talk. One time it'll be the pilot, and then next it'll be the first officer. So,
and I believe on FlightAware you can sometimes listen. They have the option to sometimes listen.
Yeah. The aerodrome forecast of that place issued
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah, at 12:40 hours and valid from 1300 hours on the 17th of February 2025 until 1900 hours on the 18th of February 2025 indicated the following: winds from 270 degrees at 25 knots, gusting 35 knots. Visibility is 3 miles SM in light snow showers and blowing snow. Broken ceiling at 3,000 feet AGL. Between 1300 hours and 1600 hours, a tempo condition of 6 SM visibility due to blowing snow. Between 1300 hours and 1600 hours, a 40% probability, prob 40, of 1.5 SM visibility due to light snow showers and blowing snow. The runway had recently been plowed to the width of 160 feet. The runway, the full runway width is 200 feet. Company information. Endeavour Air is a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines Incorporated, headquarters in Minnesota, United States. It has hub operations in Atlanta, Georgia, Cincinnati, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, and New York, and Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and it has 11 maintenance bases across the network. It is the world's largest operator of CRJ 900 aircraft with 139 regional jets flying at Delta connections. Endeavour Air operates 700 daily flights to over 126 cities in the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Endeavour Air has over 1,800 flight crew members and 1,600 cabin crew members. Company landing standards operating procedure. The flight operations manual indicates the initiate to the flare between 30 and 20 feet AGL by increasing pitch attitude at needed to slow the descent rate while continuing to reduce thrust to idle at 20 feet. Back pressure on the control column is to be maintained as necessary to hold a constant pitch angle. In addition, the manual states that the pitch attitude at touchdown should be between 3 degrees and 8 degrees, depending on the landing reference speed (VRF) of the aircraft. Now, the pitch attitude exceeds 11 degrees, there is a risk of a tail strike. Obviously, there's also a hard landing defined as A.
This is my aircraft right now.
Hey, what?
This is my ruler, but it's my aircraft right now until my mom can drop off her aircraft.
Right. Landing at vertical descent rate greater than 600 feet a minute, then the aircraft gross weight is less than or equal to MLW, maximum landing weight. Wreckage information. The initial impact point was about 420 feet past the runway 23 threshold, where the right MLG, main landing gear, struck the runway surface. The aircraft came to rest inverted on runway 15L 15L, approximately 1,800 feet beyond the threshold and about 75 feet to the right of the runway edge, near the intersection of runway 23 and runway 5 left.
And
Footnote. Oh, sorry.
And then just bringing this back up.
Yeah.
This is the runway, the runway information, and it's a picture. So I'm sorry, it's like I can only get it so big. So this is runway 23, and this is runway 15. So it did come to rest in here.
Mm-hmm. Right. The footnotes for the above company landing standard operation procedure 5. Endeavour Air CRJ 7900 series company flight manual revision 11 TR 224-03 16th June 2024 effective the 1st of July 2024 chapter 7 standard profiles and maneuvers section aircraft geometry considerations for takeoff page 7 to 17 and 6 which is where's 6 I think 6 is right at the end of that paragraph. I bid section hard overweight landing page 7 to 73.
And I don't have their manual, so we're not going to read what that says.
Yeah, a portion, a large, that'll be a headache. A large portion of the tail section was found on the runway to the left of the center line, about 1,680 feet from the threshold and 235 feet from the main wreckage. The right wing came to rest on runway 25, about 215 feet beyond the main wreckage, figure 2 and figure 3. So if we go down, and then on page 8.
It's funny about the when we mentioned the overweight landing on page 7 to 73. I'm having a hard enough time deciphering the owner's manual of my new vehicle with as many things and acronyms that are in there that I don't know. Like, instead of writing lane departure warning, every time they write LDW. There are acronyms in this vehicle that I don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. My last vehicle was a 2017, and the difference in technology and vehicles in 2017 and 2025 is amazing. And so I'm like having to like, this is
I mean, for me, it's more practical. If I get hands-on, I learn about a vehicle way quicker than I do when I read a book. But yeah, on page 8, you'll see the top
things that
Oh, sorry.
There's certain things that in the vehicle I'm looking in the book to see what the acronyms are, and in the book they mention what the acronym is once, and then they use the acronym, and I'm like, that's not the point. So here's a diagram of, here's Google Earth. So if we superimposed the airport diagram onto this, this is runway 23. This is that long runway. This was the runway that we crossed at the bottom. And over here is where the FedEx building is. So if we were to look at that and this is taken from this angle right here. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but superimposing that, the plane was coming this way. Here was where that picture was taken. This is where the FedEx building is. So if you're looking at this, and you can, if you think I'm wrong, feel free to let me know. But like, here is where the FedEx building would be. So now you can see where the pictures might have been taken, or those videos might have been taken from, a little bit better. So, I like how they superimposed where the aircraft actually was too. So it landed this way, slid, the tail came off first. The wing came off first, then the tail. And because the aircraft was moving faster when the wing came off, it went farther. Hey, King Paco. Ugh. Someone broke my internet. What happened? Oh, wing and tail section and aircraft marks left in the snow. And then figure 3, aircraft right wing resting on runway 23 after it detached from the aircraft. Yep, and that's FedEx building because there's either FedEx or UPS.
Yep.
It's the building you were talking about being seen in the background of that video?
Yep, but there was another video where there was no building, so and it was looking at the fuselage. So that's where my that's where it's not making sense, because I looked at both videos and both videos looked like they came from the same angle. One you see the FedEx building, and then another one you don't. So that's where I need to do a little bit of digging and have a look at the videos a little bit in frame by frame instead of just watching it. And then overlapping both. So I'm going to have one screen, two screen, and then I'm going to have both play at the same time.
The landing gear, main landing gear consists of 2 main landing gears. Her dad's computer acting like she's typing. I have against the wall on the other side of the room behind my monitor. So if I were to lift up my monitor, I can see the back of his head. Mounted on the underside of the wing that retract inward into the wheelbase. Each main landing gear assembly incorporates a shock absorber and twin wheels. A folding side stay is attached to the wing, rear spar, and to the shock strut, and locks the main landing gear in the extended position. An uplock assembly located in the fuselage structure above the side stay provides a mechanical means of locking the main landing gear in the retracted position. The uplock assembly releases the main landing gear from the up and locked position through a hydraulic pressure for normal extension, or mechanically when the gear alternate extension system is used. A retract actuator is fitted to each of the main landing gear assemblies to extend and retract the main landing gear. A lock actuator unlocks the main landing gear from the down and locked position for retraction. No, it was a Delta Connect CRJ 900 carrying 76 passengers and 4 crew. And we've got about 10 minutes left before I have to get going. The right main landing gear was found with the severed right wing. There was minor damage to the right main landing gear tires. However, no flat spots or major damage were observed. This is what I have an issue. Like, this physics-wise makes very little sense to me. When it comes down like that, and there was no rubbing on the sidewall of the tire, like,
yeah, that, I mean, hypothetically speaking,
or the flat spots, like it just clapped so fast.
No, I don't. I mean,
Know,
if you actually watch you're breaking up a little. If you watch the footage, when the first impact happened, it was like that landing gear just disappeared.
The tire tread.
It just disappeared. So I personally think it just disintegrated and ripped off. You know, that quick. It didn't have a chance to hit anything else.
The right main landing gear tire wear and pressure nitrogen strut pressure were found within aircraft maintenance manual limits. There was no damage to the left main landing gear or nose landing gear. Yeah, because they never touched. They never touched the ground. Like, I mean, like, I don't mean to laugh, but like, they never touched the ground, so they never got damaged. But FedEx and UPS have a lot of buildings and a lot of airports for transporting and sorting. Yeah, they have they have been yeah. Sorry, I've been UA, but I will talk. It's a folding side stays attached to the wing, but main landing gear or no landing gear, which there was minor damage to the right main landing gear. Outer cylinder showed evidence.
I don't know what's going on with your internet, but it keeps on breaking up.
Just be my voice morning, like coughing, so I'm like stopping. My voice is very in and out. I don't think it's my internet. I think it's me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The right main landing gear outboard side stay locks the landing gear in place and prevents the landing gear from collapsing during normal operations. Getting every other word. Oh no. Hold on.
Yeah, it's like
I feel like my voice is just glitchy this morning because I'm stopping and like pausing.
Yeah, it's all good.
Hold on. Let's see. Is that better? I don't know. We did have an internet outage last night, so this is the first morning back with internet. Our internet was out for like 6 hours last night, so we'll see. All right, and they do have a schematic of the landing gear side stay and fracture location. So you can see the lock actuator, lock link, and this is Mr. Squid's bread and butter. He is landing gear coiled or gear drop coiled. So this is his.
I mean, thinking about it,
and I have to discuss this with him because we just got on. We went down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole last night, and he went down the rabbit holes with me.
I mean, not to.
All right, during the occurrence, the right main landing gear outboard side stay fractured at the connection to the landing gear strut. This is right where it fractured. That the physics of this still. It acted like a loose connection. It's good now. Well, she's been playing with my mic, so let me make sure that it's seated well.
No, it's
internet. Welcome to rural internet. So it's probably my internet. It's what happens when you live in small towns. Here we get into pictures, which I think we're going to call it a day because we'll get into the pictures next time because we'll go down rabbit holes with these pictures and I ain't got time for that. So I believe we will get into that the next time we bring up this topic. And hopefully my internet will be working better. It's always a fun experience with my internet.
Restart your router. Turn it off for 30 seconds and then turn it back on.
I forgot about the outage last night. Usually after like I never know what glitch didn't this morning because I got focused on other stuff.
Yeah, you are breaking up quite a bit, so. Yeah, you are breaking up. You froze on me. Oh, there you go.
Oh, no. I will not be streaming tomorrow because I have some stuff. Oh, I have an appointment in the morning and I have something to do in the afternoon. However, if anything comes up, I will be streaming this afternoon. So, and Mr. Squid is working all weekend. He is working 14 days in a row. So I probably will be streaming Saturday morning as well. So y'all have a great day, and I will see you on the next one. You want to say bye?
Take care, everybody.
Before we go, I am going to redirect over to Mo in the Deep End is doing Karen Reed, and that is a fascinating thing. And I watched the opening statements yesterday. Fire by her attorney. So there is so many people doing Karen Reed right now. It's not even funny. There's 5 different. This is one of the reasons that I'm not doing Karen Reed. Broken Baker, Val, and Mo in the Deep End are doing it together. Andrea Burkhart's doing it. Good Logic is doing it. Trial TV is doing it, or is doing a trial. It's just there is the world is saturated with Karen Reed this week and for the next 12 weeks, and I just am not. There are so many good places to watch it that you don't need to watch it here. But y'all have a good day, and tell Mo that I said hi and I love her. Bye, guys.
All right, I'll see you later. I'm going to leave. I'm going to shoot off as well.
Okay.